When a woman's life is judged, her death stops being investigated. By late 1947, something subtle but devastating had happened. The Black Dahlia investigation was no longer about finding who killed Elizabeth Short. It was about managing embarrassment. Police departments were under fire. Leads had gone nowhere. Public confidence was eroding. So the goal changed. Instead of solving the crime, investigators focused on containing it. Files were reorganized. Active leads were reduced. Resources were reassigned. The case didn't officially close, but it slipped into a bureaucratic coma. And Elizabeth Short faded from priority to problem. Elizabeth Short's identity shaped everything about how her case was handled. She was young. She was female. She lived independently. She didn't conform. In 1947, that made her suspect by default. Police reports repeatedly emphasized her appearance, her social life, her perceived morality. These details appeared far more often than objective analysis of suspects. Her death was framed as a consequence, not a crime. And that framing mattered. Because once a victim is judged, the urgency to protect them disappears. Investigators frequently described Elizabeth as living a dangerous life. But dangerous to whom? She wasn't violent. She wasn't a criminal. She wasn't threatening anyone. She was vulnerable. That vulnerability should have intensified the investigation. Instead, it diluted it. Because when vulnerability is reframed as recklessness, accountability shifts away from perpetrators and toward the dead. Newspapers turned Elizabeth into a spectacle. Her face appeared everywhere. Her nickname eclipsed her name. Her murder was serialized like fiction. Details were exaggerated. Speculation was printed as fact. Rumors became public record. Some information published was never verified. Some was outright false. And police, rather than correcting it, often relied on the same coverage to shape their investigation. The line between journalism and interference disappeared. As coverage intensified, public assumptions hardened. Elizabeth was labeled a seductress, a drifter, a troublemaker. Those labels influenced jurors who would never exist, witnesses who second-guessed themselves, investigators who unconsciously deprioritized her humanity. This wasn't accidental. It was systemic. The story became easier to digest when blame could be implied, even without proof. Elizabeth Short didn't just die violently. She lived under constant instability, abandonment, financial insecurity, loneliness, dependency on strangers. Modern investigators recognize these as risk factors for victimization. In 1947, they were treated as character flaws. No one framed her life as trauma, and no one considered how desperation limits choices, and no one asked who exploited that vulnerability. Those questions might have led somewhere real. They were never seriously pursued. Los Angeles in the late 1940s was obsessed with image. Hollywood was booming. Tourism was rising. The city wanted glamour, not horror. A prolonged, unsolved murder involving potential institutional connections was bad for business. And so, quietly, pressure mounted. Pressure to stop leaks. Pressure to soften conclusions. Pressure to let time do what investigations couldn't. There was no single order to bury the case. Just a collective reluctance to keep digging. Ironically, the Black Dahlia case became a teaching tool. Future homicide investigations cited its failures. Poor evidence handling. Media interference. Victim-blaming narratives. Lack of interdepartmental coordination. Protocols changed. Standards improved. Training evolved. Elizabeth Short helped reform homicide investigations, without ever receiving justice herself. Progress came. Closure did not. Some detectives never let it go. Years later, retired officers admitted they believed the killer was known, but unreachable. Not enough evidence. Not enough courage. Not enough institutional will. They spoke in fragments, and hypotheticals, and regret. And always in private. Elizabeth Short became famous in death. But that fame worked against her. It created noise, it attracted opportunists, it encouraged false confessions, it overwhelmed facts. Her murder didn't go unsolved because no one cared. It went unsolved because too many people cared for the wrong reasons. As decades passed, witnesses died. Suspects aged out of accountability. Evidence lost relevance. The window for justice narrowed, then closed. Not with a decision. Not with a verdict. But with silence. Elizabeth Short never got a trial. Never got an answer. Never got the dignity of resolution.